I want to first of all thank the sponsors. If you could raise your hand when I call out your company. Lapata, Mike in the back, who got engaged this last weekend. Yeah, you're all invited to the wedding. Dave from Parkside, raise your hand if you would. There we are, back in the back. Grant from Atomic. Yeah, here we are. Thank you, Grant. Jason from SWIP, who's running the technology over here. Tom from Black Twig, who invited you all to the wedding. Jamie from CMA, who checked you in. Paul from Pulsonelli. Did I see Paul? I think Paul said he couldn't make it today. He had a client meeting. And then Matt Scarin, I just saw you. Hey, buddy, how are you, man? So there is a sponsor table in the back with some material, some good material that you might want to pick up. But if we could have a round of applause for them, they are the reason that you're drinking coffee, sitting in the seats, have this incredible panel before us and everything. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to introduce Troy, who's going to lead the conversation today. And then Troy's going to work through and he's going to let the other panelists introduce themselves. As you can see, we have a couple of different people remote with us today as well. So Troy is the Chief Executive Officer at Boone Center Incorporated, where he provides leadership and strategic direction to achieve operational goals and performance results consistent with the organization's mission and values. BCI is a nonprofit that specializes in employment and vocational training for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. BCI serves the greater St. Louis region and Southwest Missouri. In Southwestern Missouri, BCI operates under the name Image Technical Institute. Prior to joining BCI, Troy served as the Supply Chain Operations Director for BJC Healthcare. In addition, Troy is an active member of the United States Air Force National Guard. And I didn't know this, he currently serves as the medical group commander for the 126th Air Refueling Wing at Scott Air Force Base and holds the rank of colonel. So we have a colonel in our presence. So thank you for your service. And thank you for being here today.
Thanks for that intro, Tom, and what a great turnout today. So congratulations on this event. I think it's your biggest one, you said, in 4 or 5 years, so fantastic. And what a great panelist we have here. I'm a little starstruck by the talent we have up here today, and what a great topic. Modern approaches to recruitment, retention, sustaining employment for our workforce here in Missouri. So we're gonna get right into it because we have a lot of ground to cover. And we're going to start with culture, because I think, what's the chicken and the egg, right? So how do we retain great talent without having great cultures in our organizations? And so we're going to start off with that. And I'm going to kick it over to Kevin at Cambridge to start. And Kevin, I was looking at the website for Cambridge, and the first thing that I see on the website, it's not that you all make great heating units. It says create healthy working environments for their hardworking people. So that's what stuck out to me immediately when I saw that. So tell me a little bit more about Cambridge, yourself, and how does that statement resonate with you and the leadership team, and how does that play into your strategy and recruitment, so to speak? So.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Kevin Thompson. I've been with Cambridge for 14 years. First 13, I was the CFO, kind of COO, and more recently, I'm kind of semi-retired, and I do leadership coaching internally. So I'm actually inside of that workforce development as a leadership coach. Cambridge is a designer manufacturer of commercial industrial HVAC equipment, a 60-year-old second-generation family-owned company down in Chesterfield. Some of you will be familiar. Some of you may have toured. We're known for our culture, among other things. And so that statement for us is, it really came to be about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, when we were rebranding to Cambridge Air Solutions, and we were trying to figure out, how do we get who we become from a culture perspective actually into our branding and live out that concept. And so what we realized as we went through that, our old tagline was more heat, less energy, very technical approach. And we realized we had become so people-centric and so culture-centric that our brand wasn't recognizing that. And we realized we didn't actually sell heaters and air conditioners. We actually sold comfort and indoor air quality, so safety. So we actually sell comfort and safety. as well as encouraging our customers and everybody we come into contact with to share that people-centric cultural approach to how we do business. And so it's actually got a twofold approach. It's externally facing to the customer. So knowing that when you deal with Cambridge, you're not only addressing the comfort and safety of your employees from a physical perspective, but you also can engage with us culturally. And so if you think of the holistic employee as far as, health of spiritual, mental, and physical, then we would love to engage with you in that respect. And then it's also an internal application for us, because I'm ashamed to admit, we actually were one of those companies that did manufacturing and didn't cool our plant, and we were selling coolers, and we had hot employees that were not safe, and so we air conditioned our plant, and that was a big decision for us. And the thing that drove the decision was we're being inconsistent. We're actually being hypocritical in what we're doing and what we're selling and who we're saying we are. So it's both externally and internally facing, but it's primarily inside the concept of people and dealing with people and respecting our core values are care, courage, respect, and unconditional love. And so the fact that we do what we do, we believe is inside of all those values, especially care and respect for our employees.
Just a quick follow-up question on that, Kevin. When you recruit individuals, are you looking for culture fit, or do you want them to adapt potentially to the culture? So maybe stump.
It might stump me. I got a little summer cold, so I apologize. If my voice breaks, I am not going through puberty. I just want you to know that. I'm just going to say that in advance. I would say, see, there it happened. It just happened. I would say it depends on who we're recruiting. So if we're recruiting more for a professional technical position, we are, well, maybe not. I mean, we do look heavily and initially at cultural fit. And so the way we do that is we're just very, very transparent about our culture and our values, about who we are. There's an interesting question we ask. If you were interviewing for leadership at Cambridge, one of the questions, and I shouldn't tell you this because I'm giving you a heads up, so if you ever interview, you'll know. One of the questions you'll be asked is, are you willing to clean the bathroom? Because we clean our own bathrooms. We clean our own building. We don't have a custodial staff. We do that during our lead and clean time. And so as the CFO, one of my jobs was to clean the bathroom. It's still one of my jobs to clean the bathroom when it's my turn to do it. We vacuum, we do all that. And we watch for that response, because obviously that shows a consistency with humility, which is a big leadership value for us, and teamwork, and be willing to get your hands in wherever. So we do recruit for values. And if we see a misalignment there, we're probably going to exit the talk pretty quickly. If we see that alignment, then we're leaning more deeply into, okay, do you have the technical, qualifications, proficiency to do the job? Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. Tracy, just the other day, I saw an article in the Business Journal about the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center here. So why don't you tell us a little more about yourself and the current status of the Institute?
Sure. First of all, my name is Tracy Hinkey, and like my co-panelist here, suffering from a bit of a summer cold, except I think I'm on 3.5 weeks, so I don't wish this on anybody. I've already sucked on 2. He offered me a cough drop. So I'm like, I've already downed 2 since I've been here. So once again, Tracy Hinkey, I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Executive Director for what we're calling the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center St. Louis. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we are going to be located, and currently are located, at Rankin Technical College. They are providing space to us. Rankin is also providing us close to 7 acres where we're going to be building a whole innovation campus at Rankin. And when you think of us, think of the following 3 things. Think of workforce integration, think of research and development, and think production and prototyping. So this region was founded, when you look back at our history, the role of manufacturing in this region, the garment district, the shoe district, the beverage, I mean, just manufacturing everywhere. And look at this room, and look at, our broader bi-state region with all the manufacturing we have here. Something that we believe can differentiate us and make us even more competitive is to have this Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center. We're inspired by a facility in Sheffield, England, called the Advanced Manufacturing Research Center. And when you look at Sheffield, it looked 25 years ago, it looked a lot like North City, St. Louis. We believe that we can and will be an economic driver, business attraction, and in my opinion, more importantly, a people attraction place. The state of Missouri exports more than 20,000 college graduates every single year. That doesn't count the amount of people who are not going to college who also potentially are leaving. We have to figure out how to retain, and we got to figure out how to attract. And we think a facility one like our Innovation Center will do that. Our research partners are everybody from SIUE and SIUE Edwardsville to Missouri Science and Tech and all in between. So UMSL, SLU, WashU, actually Mizzou we're meeting with shortly, Harris Stowe, and I know I'm missing some. Our workforce integration partners are all over the region. This region has tremendous workforce partners and workforce training and development entities. What they don't have is a workforce integrator, somebody that is truly bringing everybody together and figuring out how to do things at scale, how to talk about at scale, how we address transportation challenges, how we address childcare challenges, how we accelerate training to meet the needs. National Association of Manufacturers estimates probably around 4 million job openings in manufacturing by 2030, if not well before. For every 4 people leaving manufacturing, only 1 is coming in. We have got to figure out how we change that, and that's what we're going to be doing at AMIC STL. So we're very excited about it. I unfortunately have to bolt at 9 a.m., but my contact information they have. I hope you'll reach out. We are happy to come and meet and talk and share what we're doing. We have several industry partners already, and we're always looking to grow so you can help form what we do as we move forward.
Thanks so much, Tracy. George, you've been at Worldwide a little over 10 years now. It's been probably quite the journey, seeing the growth of that organization, but you're famously known, I suppose, through the city as both a growth company, but also a culture company for I think 12 years running. You've been one of the workforces that's been recognized for that. So how does culture play into Worldwide's technology or recruitment strategy? And tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, thanks. Hi, I'm George Schettinger. I'm the vice president of our global logistics team at Worldwide. Yes, been there 10 years, which is amazing to think it's been 10 years. Yes, the company has obviously grown a lot substantially since I joined, so I've witnessed a big part of it. I'll tell you, perhaps even as to root this statement, when I started, I was looking for a company that had a good culture. It was my number one thing. I had worked in places that had good cultures and some that had not so good cultures. So it really, for me, started because that's what I was looking for. And it became very evident early on that was part of our core, if you will. It is, making it a great place to work for all is in our mission and vision. It is what we do every day. And it's somewhat hard to believe how much it really does permeate everything that we do. I mean, there isn't a meeting that doesn't have some component of what we call our integrated management and leadership program style. It's our sort of our rule book for how things go. And those will be in a slide deck, both externally and internally. I think about what Kevin said. So culture really is what we do every day. And somebody asked me a few years ago, how much time do you spend on the people and how much time do you spend running the business from a business perspective? And we talk a lot about how that has to be in balance. But I'll tell you, I think, I personally and my leadership team spend more time really just making certain that we have the right people. Hiring is a big part of it, and making certain that we interview for culture first. We need technical skills, no doubt about that. That's an important element. But I think about, someone's resume, someone's experiences can tell me a little bit about what they've done, but I really need to know how they're going to fit into our culture, because if they don't fit, it's a waste of time for everybody. The person and the company included. So we put a lot on the inbound side there, and training a workforce on how to maintain a good culture. It's not easy. It's really not a simple thing. You think, well, come on, we all know what it's nice to get along with people, but it really is work. I tell people who come in, I try to meet with groups of our new hires in my area, and I tell them everybody in this company is responsible for our culture. Yes, it starts at the top, it goes through everybody, but it really is down to every single individual because we all manage that. So at Worldwide, I do believe firmly it's a reason why we've grown so much, and we've been afforded some successes are because of the culture. We're very focused on that, and I will say this: it applies to our vendors that we represent, and it applies to our customers. And yes, we have severed relations with customers that we do not feel fit our core values. And I will tell you, some of them are some big numbers, and I'm like, wow, okay. But it shows how important it is for us. So to summarize that, I think it's what we do, and it's maybe a secret sauce, even though I don't think it's that big of a secret on how to make the business grow and be successful. So.
All right, as you can see, we have a few panelists online today. And so we're going to go over to Basha, who's the senior faculty specialist at University of Maryland. So although you're on Zoom, you're not in Maryland. I know you house out of St. Louis. So why don't you share a little bit more about yourself, Basha, and then speak to us a little bit about what you're doing in the community to engage mentorship for people in their supported workplaces.
Sure. Well, good morning. As shared, I am a St. Louisan. I'm actually.
Hold on one second, Basha. We're having a hard time hearing you here. Okay, give us a test.
Can you hear me? Good morning.
I'm really sorry. Maybe just have her talk with the echo. She may be frozen. Sorry, guys. That's all right. You can come back to us. Maybe skip the rehearsal for now. Good. Have her try one more time. Take her off. Take it off. Try. Basha, go ahead and give us a test.
Test. Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can't get it to come through with the echo. I can make the volume go up with the echo. Okay.
Again, let's we're gonna let just here for a second. I think we're talking here. We're gonna get that go back.
All right, let's give Basha a second to give us another test. If we can quiet down.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, Basha.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to this morning's panel session. Mark Lapata, I don't know you yet, but I'm super excited to attend your wedding. I may not be a colonel, but like a colonel, I wear many hats. First and foremost, I'm a proud mom of two amazing girls. As shared, I am a St. Louisan, but currently I am in Philadelphia supporting my daughter's lacrosse tournament. So I'm closer to Jeff Abramovitz, who is online with us this morning as well. But professionally, I work as a senior faculty specialist for the University of Maryland. I work remotely to help drive workforce development initiatives and training with 9 universities and 2 non-for-profits under a consortium called NASA Acres. So we work with farmers and researchers to help improve processes and educations that focus on food security measures in the supply chain system. In addition to that role, I work as a workforce equity director for a non-for-profit called From Prison Cells to PhD. I also work remotely for this organization as we're in 37 different states, helping to improve opportunities for system-impacted people who are returning into the communities. So I also have the pleasure of working with Jeff Abramovitz on education, workforce development education. And as many of you may know, Cindy May Brewer, who is also in the audience today, to help improve understanding and access to culture, as we discussed a little bit earlier today, and to learn what we can do through mentorship and to help support people and to understand what that fit may be for the organization and for that person individually. So some of the things that we're doing locally and nationally is working with universities and organizations to understand their workplace culture and challenging them to kind of put themselves in non-traditional candidates' shoes. Of course, we have to be realistic and we need to understand what is a good fit and what is not a good fit. But by kind of being that mediator and assessing an organization's culture, we're able to provide recommendations, looking at it even through a supply chain lens. What can we do to help improve processes so that organizations are not, can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. So that there isn't high turnover and cost associated. So we work on apprenticeship programs. We do a lot of pre-boarding initiatives to help expose candidates to the employer's organization so that the employer can assess their competency and skill set level. But in turn, that person is also learning about that person's culture and seeing if they feel like this is a place they would like to be a part of. So in my role working with NASA Acres, we're pairing farmers who are working on the ground literally with data research scientists and scholars. We're also working with community colleges to provide certifications and courses that provide farmers and scholars who are interested in expanding their understanding in STEM fields. So we're working with farmers to help improve their gaps. And as one farmer said, not selling them snake oil. So truly creating systems and initiatives that support people for success and give them the tools and understanding to know how to be successful in the work environment.
All right, I think we're going to stick to our online panelists while we have this sorted out. So, Jeff, we're going to go with you. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your organization, Jeff, your role, a little bit about your background, and then, of course, I know we're working with a justice impacted individual. So just tell us a little bit about the hiring efforts in that space.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and good to see you, Basha. You're pretty close to me now. But good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Abramowitz. I am the CEO of the PD Green Program, which is a national nonprofit that does educational support for individuals that have been touched by our criminal legal systems. And I'm super excited to be here because the topic that we're talking about today is about culture and The reality in our country today is that there are more jobs than we have people to fill them. And there are about 100 million people in our country that have a criminal history. And, you know, Basha talked about the hats that she wears, and the hats that I wear are many. Number one, as the CEO of a national organization that helps people get smarter, that are behind inside of our prisons and jails across the country. But the other hat that I wear is a subject matter expert for the U.S. Department of Education, and recognizing how important it is for everyone in the workplace to really recognize and understand that education often holds the key to not only generational poverty, but also to getting people into those career pathways that are so essential to success for everyone in our country. And so my work with the U.S. Department of Education is to oversee a portfolio of correctional and reentry education that helps really prepare people that are in our prison systems on the way out. I guess the culture thing for me is getting people to understand in this audience, as well as across the country, that people that are incarcerated are there simply because they've made a choice. Einstein has a great line. He says, if you make 10 bad choices a day, you're just not trying hard enough. And that's because that's how we learn. We do things, we don't do them so well. We go back and we do them again, and we do them better. We learn from those lessons. And we have so many people, almost 2 million people in our country that are incarcerated, and 600,000 of them come back into our communities every year. So we need to recognize that preparing them for their next step, preparing them for those jobs that are out there, and really getting them embedded into those systems, not just in the entry level, but for that pathway of supervisor and manager and working up the ladder is really the key for their success. So those are the kind of lanes that I live in. I live in the center of workforce development, criminal justice, and education. And education is this broad term. It's about digital literacy and not making assumptions. And then the last hat that I just want to share with you, because I think it's important for you to understand the context, is that I was a lawyer for over 20 years in Philadelphia, in New Jersey, and before the U.S. Supreme Court. And I made bad choices in life about 14 years ago that landed me in a federal prison for 5 years. And it's important to understand that those were choices that I made. I took responsibility for, but it's that coming out of that journey, I've understood how important it was and what talent lies behind the walls of prisons and jails. I hope that all the employers in the room today will open this up with wide eyes and keep one thing in mind as you go through this journey of looking at people that may be justice impacted. Be curious and not judgmental. Really ask those questions of, is this a job you really want to do? And do you have a passion for it? And ask the questions of what the challenges or barriers that they have in really being successful in the job, because that's all the key. So I appreciate everyone being here today, and obviously an opportunity to address you. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Jeff, and thanks for sharing a bit of your personal story. That really is touching, and we appreciate that. And that it's a good segue. So we're thinking about underrepresented workforces. So, and I know this is something that Kevin's been near to his heart. So, Kevin, what unconventional methods are you using at Cambridge to recruit and hire individuals?
Yeah, I would say one comes to mind. And in the interest of full disclosure, I serve as a board member for Boone Center. And until recently, I was the finance chair and on the executive committee. So I have a deep connection to BCI, as does George. And several years ago, through that work, I was able to introduce BCI to Cambridge and our BCI Skills Center, which is basically inside what we call our employment continuum of adults with neurodiversity disabilities, but that have the capacity to go into the workforce in one way, shape, or form if they have the right company to work for and the right people to work with and the right people that are going to walk with them. And so we entered into that relationship in, I think at our peak, we had 8 Skills Center employees. And it was a remarkable, it's been and continues to be a remarkable experience. It's scary. Like when you think about hiring people that can be significantly different, we're talking about people on the autism spectrum. Most of the people we hired, I think, were on the autism spectrum in one way, shape, or form. And interestingly, we didn't even know it, but we already had some employees that dealt with that. And when we went in with Skill Center, it became more evident on the work we needed to do, had the opportunity to do with them. But they have been such a blessing to Cambridge because our employees, because we have such a nurturing culture, our employees immediately leaned in with them and started to work with them, and they became some of our most valuable and productive employees, interestingly. And what we found that we didn't know is we have a lot of people, and you have a lot of people in your workforce who have people with disabilities in their lives, a sibling, a cousin, a friend, something. And they've actually been caretakers for those individuals. What we found was supervisors that started leaning in because, oh yeah, my brother has dealt with this for many, many years. I know how to do this, and started teaching other people how to do it. And then we started seeing our existing employees who had never been willing to step forward and start sharing their experience, which obviously touched so many other people. What I remember was, I hope this is applicable because it's so important to me. I remember we had a graduation of some of our employees, Skill Center employees graduating into Cambridge after training, and all their parents are there. Their parents and their grandparents and their loved ones are there. And I'm speaking because at the time I was in that role, and I'm watching the parents crying. And I realized in that moment that what we were doing was we were entering into relationship as part of the team that cared for their children. And so if you can imagine being a parent in your whole life, and some of you may have experienced this, I don't know, but as a parent with somebody with these issues and these disabilities, you've dealt with it your whole life. You've dealt with struggling with getting the people to enter in and nurture and care for your child. And now you've got a workplace that's shown a willingness to do that. And I say we have benefited more than anybody, more than the people that came to us, I believe. Cambridge has actually benefited from it, just in what they brought. And I'll tell one story real quick. I love this story. He's no longer with us, but we had a guy, his name was Joe. And we found out, and Joe was not, not a great communicator. It was hard to talk to him, but he did great work. We found out that Joe could solve a Rubik's Cube very quickly. And his supervisor, actually, we have a morning meeting. Some of you may be familiar with our daily morning meeting where you can get up and do gratitude, and it's just a cool meeting. And his supervisor convinced Joe to go up in front of 200 people and solve a Rubik's Cube in like 40 seconds. And the place went crazy. Just, you could see just Joe light up. Well, about a week later, I have a 9-year-old at home, and he had gotten a gift of this Rubik's Cube. And my little 9-year-old's like me; he's a little OCD. He wanted all the colors the same. Well, my grandson messed it up, and he's like, "Dad, can you fix this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no." But I got a guy. And so I took it to work and I said, "Hey, Joe, can you fix this for my son?" And he took it. I turned around, took 4 steps. He yelled my name. I turned around and he threw me the Rubik's Cube solved. And I just gave him a hug and thanked him. That's just one example of, and I think, Jeffrey's example, I'm anxious, Jeffrey, to learn more about what you do, because it's another workforce that I think we underestimate. There are workforces out there that we underestimate, mostly because we're just uncertain and scared. And my encouragement from our experience would be to enter into those, find them, because there are people there that are wonderful workers, that be great additions to your companies, and that they will bring some things that you never anticipated that they would bring. They will blow you away. We've had a couple bad experiences, I'm not gonna lie, that we couldn't continue with, but I think that's our primary unconventional. We've done a few other things, but I would say that's the one that has been the most transformational for us, unconventional.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Kevin. Selfless plug here. This is a great population that's near and dear to my heart, of course. We've graduated over 100 people from our vocational training program. 90% graduation rate, and over 2 years in manufacturing, at true manufacturing, where we place 40 people, we have a retention rate of 80% over 2 years. That's a lot higher than most of you probably experience in your organization. So probably 40% higher if I was gonna look at the numbers. So, so thanks for sharing. George, over to you. Board-wide, obviously big growth. We talked about that earlier. A lot over in Illinois. Tell us how that's kind of changed your recruitment strategies and the talent pipeline over the years.
Great. Yes, thank you. We've just to put perhaps some numbers to it I'll just talk about our operations over in Illinois, but it really applies. We have 9,000 employees in the St. Louis region, I'll call it, if you consider the Metro East. But when I started, there were probably 2,000. So you consider in 10 years, we've added that many people of all kinds. I mean, all types of skill levels and all that. I think as I was sitting here, I mean, I'm amazed at what Kevin and the team have done. I truly, it does. He gives me an eye roll when I say these things, but I'm inspired by what they're doing, and in fact, trying to emulate that in our facilities. We're just at the early stages of bringing adults with disability into our environment. And honestly, initially, I was afraid, like you were. I was afraid. I'm like, I'm afraid for the individuals. But I learned very quickly through my connections with obviously BCI and others, what a phenomenal employees, and so rewarding, good for everybody, good for the families. I mean, the true benefit of making it a great place to work and making really touching lives. You couldn't touch a broader group of people when you touch somebody who has a disability. And I think that extends well beyond you know, the individuals that we're talking about here. Now the challenges are, it's not easy. It's not something that you just do, right? And that's one of the things I found initially is you have to put the work into it. And it's time, and it's understanding, and it's thinking through the little things that go into it. We all have hiring, talent acquisition teams, and our goal is really, as an talent acquisition organization, is to really look and hire a diverse culture. And when I say that, it really is, you know, you can imagine what you want in that, but innovations and different thinking comes from diversity in thought, diversity in people. And so if you accept that lens and that goal as a place to go, it really makes it easy to think about hiring all kinds of people. By the way, that doesn't mean you lower your standard on certain things. We still have to have, people have to fit in and be a good culture, and they have to abide by the rules we have. We have plenty of HR rules, and you have to abide by those. But if you can bring people in that have different perspectives on life, it truly is amazing what can get done. And so I think that's sort of the core for us around why we want to do what we do. And then it comes down to really putting the time and effort into it. And I just can say I've had some blunders myself, tried a few things that are different. I'm like, oh, wow, that didn't work out very well. So try something else and learn from it. For those, you all have a manufacturing connection here, you know, not everything works out, right? So we try something else and we go a different direction, we adjust. And but the reward, both in the lives you touch, the business that you run, it is amazing. I mean, it really is. It's very rewarding, and I don't want to simplify it because it's work, but it really is. It's worked out well, and it's just committing the time to doing something a little differently than maybe the norm, and it'll pay you back, I guess, in my experience.
It's a nice segue, George. Tracy, you mentioned a lot of challenges with our workforce development, and I didn't even know the number of graduates that are leaving Missouri for employment opportunities. Any other challenges that come to mind, or anything surprising, or other practices that you heard in your engagement that you'd like to share?
One, I'd like to just comment on some of the statements made, because I think too often, because it is work, but as leaders in an organization, and I'm going to use your term, leaders and the company leaders, you're all about talent acquisition. That is your number one role, is talent acquisition, because the company is only as good as the foundation upon which it's built. And the foundation are the employees. So as a leader, I know my job is to support the team, not their job to support me. It's my job to support them, to get the most out of them, to help them, to understand them, to learn how to talk and how to speak, to get the most out of them. But by creating a diverse culture, you enhance your entire organization. And by looking at individuals with disabilities, second chance, the St. Louis Metro has a person every single day released from the justice system, returned to the community every single day. You asked earlier to describe and tell us a little bit about yourself. Nobody would look at my resume and say it makes any sense in the world. So just real quickly, I am a farm girl from Moscow Mills, Missouri. I still own cattle, but I lived in Washington, D.C. for 30 years. I'm the former Deputy Associate Attorney General of the United States Department of Justice. I'm the former Assistant Secretary for the Office of Domestic Preparedness at the Department of Homeland Security. I've jumped out of helicopters. I've done terrorist programming in Israel. Pick a weapon, I have fired it. You know, I have run billion-dollar programs, et cetera, but I've always known my job is to support my team. And after 9/11, because my job was estimated that refrigeration of body parts, DNA identification, deploying teams all over the country, et cetera. And because we had good teams, we were able to do what we needed to do in a very short time period. But I was also the lead person for the Department of Justice on offender reentry. And that gets to second chance. It gets to individuals that, once again, if you want to reduce recidivism, if you want to make the community safer, create opportunity for individuals to have a job, create opportunities for them to create individual wealth, family wealth, and community wealth. That will increase safety in a community, and that is so important. So real quickly, some things that I've seen. I'm gonna go to my brother's company, which is out in Troy, Missouri. Every single year, the majority of his employees are second chance employees. And often what he has to do, because of where they live, is he ends up buying them a car. Not a brand new car, but he'll find, as he always says, a junker, but a car that will get him from point A to point B. He provides it to them, they pay the insurance, they have to pay gas, they do all that kind of stuff, but it's to help them get to work so they don't have an excuse that they can't get to work, because there's not a transit system out in Lincoln County that's gonna help them with that. And so he provides, helps them ensure that they have that transportation. On retention issues, it's interesting because we've talked to companies all over this metro, and it's interesting in today's world because you have the older generation, which I would say a lot of us in this room fit in, where often you would get a job, you stay in a job, you continue to work, you promote, et cetera. Today's generation, which is definitely not me, one, they look for where they're gonna live, and then they decide to get a job. And then two, what they look for in the job is different. And so we've talked to companies that literally have like 2 different HR systems, one that's addressing the older population and one that's addressing the newer generation. But the trick is how to find the balance to not create offense and to not create animosity between them. And that's a trick and that's a balance. But we've seen more and more companies that are having to dedicate HR personnel for 2 different sets of populations of employees. But, you know, it is interesting because, you know, once again, just the examples that these individuals have provided, think about as a leader, failing forward, failing safely, and then pivoting. That's what we have to do every single day anyway. And think about that with your workforce, providing opportunity and providing a, you know, focus on how to help them succeed. Because the return on that investment for a lot of these individuals, they will be, as you said, higher retention rate. Because think of every time somebody leaves, the cost of hiring, recruitment, and the cost of retraining. And so if you focus on that culture and hiring right and providing that support to help them succeed, they'll be with you a longer time. And in the end, help your bottom line.
Thanks, Tracy. I think it's a good segue for over to Jeff. Jeff, You mentioned some of this already, but what are some best practices, and where can employers find the best information about hiring individuals with a criminal background?
Yeah, thanks so much. And thank you, Tracy, for sharing that too. I think that there are, if you're going to enter this game, there are some few things that you should know. And one of the things is that that you should know that it takes a village. Working with people that are justice impacted, and notice the language. I don't use second chance employer anymore because I don't think that some of the people that we work with I've had a first chance. And oftentimes they're on the third, fourth, or fifth chance, and they just need to find their direction. But I think that there are a lot of resources out there that can support employers as they dabble. And I think one of the first things you should think about is just really being honest. Being honest with those individuals and what types of crimes just aren't good for your employment environment, and lay it out there. If someone isn't right fit because of their history, then I'd rather see you say, you know what, this isn't a good fit for us, then put them through the whole hiring cycle and then do a background check, and then a month or 2 months down the road tell that individual, oh, guess what, we got your background check back and we got to let you go. So let's be honest about it, and let's look at what skill that person brings to the table. Look, I was incarcerated with some men that were unbelievably talented, people that could take a car engine apart and put it back together in a matter of hours. And I think that there's a lot of talent out there we have to realize. So when we hire, we should really hire for the skills that the person has, as opposed to what their background is. Look at opportunities that are in the community, reentry organizations. There are a lot of places, even your American job centers, that can really help guide you when there's a question. But don't assume anything. Ask those questions. Some people coming home may not have a bank account for their direct deposit when they get that first check. They may not have a way to work the first week that they're employed. They may not have clothing that's appropriate. There are so many challenges that people have coming home that we really need to ask the questions. And if there's one piece of advice I'd strongly encourage you is just test the water. Just take one or two individuals that you want to find out, is this going to work? What are the challenges that we face with individuals that have just come home or that are struggling with a background, and find out, like, how do we best adapt? Maybe they need a mentor on the plant floor that can really help them. There are some tools out there, and one that I'd strongly encourage you to look at is the Society for Human Resources, SHRM, has an online course that your HR staff can take, and it's called Getting Talent Back to Work. And it really will give you a good idea of some of the challenges that people face as they get into the workforce when they come home. And it's a short course. It's 10 modules. It took me a few hours to do. And it's if you just Google SHRM, Getting Talent Back to Work, it's free. It's free 95. It doesn't cost you anything, but it's a great way to kind of understand, if you're going to jump into the arena, what it's all about. And then last and not least, feel free to reach out to me or Basha. Basha and I work together on a number of projects. She's awesome. But we'll be glad to answer your questions and tell you and give you some guidance along the way of best practices that work. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. It sounds like he's gonna, kick the ball over to you, Basha. So, what other things should we be thinking about? We're thinking about our future workforce, making sure it's agile and we're innovative in that space from your perspective.
Definitely. So I would like to also thank Tracy for the words that she shared this morning too, because they certainly resonated with my heart. And I too am a system impacted individual, so I can share firsthand the knowledge of the challenges that people face. I have been fortunate enough to have a very strong support system in my reentry journey, but that typically is not the case. And despite having a support network, the realities of challenges are still evident in my journey. And I think one key component to really focus on is building trust. Trust with that employee that is being welcomed into your space. And then, that trust that employee is trying to build with you. So, and that can happen through mentorship, that can happen through inviting people like us in the reentry space to panel discussions like this. I am very grateful to you for inviting us to be a part of this conversation this morning, because the people closest to the problem are typically closest to the solution, and allowing us to share our voices and sharing some best practices really can provide transformative solutions to support culture and that transparency and that humility that we talked about this morning. So I think mentorship is really important. So if you see a new employee in your organization that may be struggling or that may be a little quiet, I encourage you to reach out to them and to humanize that opportunity, and not treat them as a number, but as a human and as a part of your family and your organization.
Thanks, Basha. We're bumping up against our time here, so I'm gonna leave it just a few minutes to see if we have any questions that may come in from the audience, if you have any for our panelists today.
Good morning.
So they can hear you.
Good morning, Elizabeth Wade, JP Morgan Chase. So my question, well, first I want to give a little plug. BCI does a great tour. If you guys haven't done it, they have one coming up July 25th. I know Troy won't say that, so little plug for him. My question is about any employers or companies that would be hesitant. What would you guys say that we could talk to them about to encourage them to get over that fear or hesitancy?
Talk to a company that's doing it. Talk to a company that's doing it. Talk to Kevin. Talk to real live, companies that have deployed and practiced, and they can share both their success and mistakes made. I think that's peer to peer. I think is probably the number one thing to do there, especially if you want to overcome that fear. I'm not certain if especially Kevin, if you have another suggestion there, but that would be what I would suggest, is talk to an entity that's doing it, because they can tell you mistakes they made as well as successes that they've had.
Hijack the mic on the way over to Kevin. I think that's the greatest. That's how we've done it. I mean, I went out and toured other companies. I'm like, we want to do this, but we're concerned on how it's going to work. We toured some other company. We had many members of our team go out and talk to other people about who've experienced it. It was the greatest. Talk about something that sped up the learning curve. I mean, it was amazing to do that. So
I want to jump in.
From personal experience, the steps I would recommend if you're in the St. Louis area is tour BCI. And then enter in the back door, and the first thing you'll see is line 18. I think we still call it line 18, don't we? And that's our, you won't get past that back piece before you're ready to get involved. It is the most amazing experience. I knew within about 100 steps of being there, I wanted to be a board member of BCI some years ago. Then, once you think it's something you want to do, then talk to BCI Skills Center. And they have counselors, they're the experts, and they'll tell you, here's what you're looking at, here's how we do it, here's the counseling resources that are available. We couldn't have done it without them because they stay with you through the whole process. We actually had Darcel, what's Darcel's title? She's a director, she's a vocational trainer, and so she walks with the employees, because when they struggle, she'd come in and help them through the struggle. And then you just learn and True is good friends of Cambridge, and we talked to True about their experience. And so there's kind of a step. And then what we at Cambridge call it, we just call it run the experiment. I heard fail forward. We call it fail forward, fail fast, fail cheap. That's what we call it. And it's inside Lean. And so just run the experiment. Give it a try and see what your experience is with it. I think you would probably have a good one. So that's what I would encourage people to do.
Go ahead, Basha.
So I was going to plug a virtual job fair that we're actually organizing on July 20th. So if you're interested in sharing your job postings, feel free to contact me. We also have a workforce development program. It's a 10-week onboarding program that works with justice impacted people. It allows them to talk about their narrative. It allows them to work on their resume, their soft skills.
Jeff, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I think she froze. Yeah, I would strongly encourage
Provide service
everyone.
to that employer. And we're happy to learn from you and to understand your challenges so that we can develop these solutions together.
So I would strongly encourage everyone to join the Second Chance Business Coalition, which is out in Chicago, Illinois, and Missouri. I'm glad Elizabeth jumped in with that question because JP Morgan Chase is part of that project. And it's where a group of businesses that are like-minded manufacturers all get together. And part of that is all the stakeholders. So you have people that are justice impacted in the room. You have people that are doing reentry support services that are in the room. And they all come together in this coalition. And those are the places the tables you want to be at to really learn and to ask those questions in a really safe environment. And that would be my strongest suggestion for everyone.
Big round of applause for our panelists. I know you may have more questions. I'm sure we can connect those through Tom and Jason, of course. But start on time and on time. That's my mantra here. So I know you guys have other things to do on this Friday. So I'm going to kick it over back over to Tom.
Thank you. Nice job, everyone. Sorry again for the audio difficulty. We thought we had it earlier. A couple things. Can I mention the morning meeting? Absolutely. Is there an invitation?
Oh, always.
So Cambridge holds what they call the morning meeting. What time?
8:45. 8:30. Well, it's part of the longer 8:30.
8:30. So Cambridge down in Chesterfield holds a morning meeting at 8:30 every weekday, where you're invited to come and see what they do and how they hold this. They have a different person that works there host the meeting every day and share something. So they do stretching and just kind of pull the group together. It's just a fantastic thing to see. So thank you. Oh, great. And you can join remotely as well. Okay, great. So I want to get a picture of everybody. The standing joke is if you are an ex-convict or you're hiding from the law or something along those lines, please duck your head because we are going to put this on social media. Everyone's smiling. All right, great. Thank you. So our next event is on September 13th. As you've noticed in the last year, what we've done is we've gone back to our manufacturing, industrial, distribution, and construction only events. That is one of those events. So it's not the large group meeting like this. This next large group meeting will be in November. But if you're in manufacturing, any industrial, construction, or distribution, you're welcome to that meeting. We're going to have another fantastic speaker. It'll be a smaller group. We'll have a hot breakfast, and you're invited if you're in that group. And then we'll see the rest of you in November. There are new feedback forms out here. I'm sorry, Tracy's got to go. She's got a board meeting. There are new feedback forms out here. There's a section on the lower part. If you're struggling with anything in your organization or you want to learn more about anything in your organization, please fill that out and we will help you connect to the people that you need to connect with. We're not marketing to you. We're not adding you to a marketing list or anything. This is a one-on-one connection that if there's anything in your business you need help with, just jot that down and we'll give you a hand. There are recycle bins on the side, trash cans on the side and everything. If you could recycle, we would really appreciate it. There's a box in the back for name badges that we're collecting so that we know who was in attendance here and everything. And other than that, thanks again for a fantastic panel. Thanks for our remote folks who might be gone. We really appreciate your time and we hope you have a fantastic weekend. Take care. Thank you.
Yeah,